So these are my top 10 MCP servers for PPC marketers. So if you don't know what an MCP is, easiest way to describe it is it just literally lets you connect your favorite tools into AI like Claude or ChatGPT. So I'll show you a very quick example. This is me on Claude asking it to query Microsoft Clarity so that it can look at all the various sessions and behavior analytics of my website. So what Claude's doing here is it's calling the MCP server for Microsoft Clarity. It's getting all the data from Microsoft Clarity and it's outputting everything inside of Claude. So I don't have to switch between lots of different tools. So if you're using ChatGPT or Claude on a daily basis, it makes sense to have these integrated. And like if you check in your settings for Claude or very similar setup for ChatGPT, you can see here's all the connectors and you can add them in here. But there's lots of cool tools specifically for PPC. I'll run through them now. So Zapier is probably like the first one I would go to just because it's actually free to set this up. You don't need like a paid Zapier subscription. They have this kind of infrastructure built. They're going really hard on MCP. Business says connect your AI to any app with Zapier MCP. Now, it's not quite true. They don't have every app, and I actually think there's a lot that you shouldn't use Zapier for everything. For example, they do have an integration with Microsoft Clarity, but for some reason it works significantly worse than just a direct connection through Claude. So yeah, you just have to be careful there. However, if you want to get started with simple connections like Google Ads, for example, I have Google Ads set up through Zapier, which is great. Otherwise, it's really kind of complicated. Google Ads have their own MCP server, but you have to do a lot of kind of technical implementation to set that up. Whereas if you go through Zapier, you can have this up and running in like 5 minutes. So here's the URL to set up with Zapier. Again, you don't need a paid subscription to set any of this up. And you can see here's some tools that I've added. Google Ads is the obvious one for PPC marketers. Like you can just talk directly to your data with AI, which is obviously really cool. So you can say, hey, what were my conversion rates in this last week? Are there any underperforming ads? You can just talk directly to Claude or ChatGPT. So I think that's really cool. Zapier, we've already covered. The next one that I love, and I did a video on this recently, is Microsoft Clarity MCP. So they released this in June, but it just got good recently. I mean, you can ask it, anything you want. So you can say, hey, tell me a bit about my scroll depth. Are there any obvious conversion leaks on my website? Why are people dropping off on my website? And if you have Microsoft Clarity, an account with Microsoft Clarity, and you have that installed, you can just talk to it. I like this one because Microsoft Clarity data is typically really overwhelming, for me at least. I log into Microsoft Clarity, I'm seeing all these percentages, all these numbers, and I don't really know how to make sense of it. So I think this MCP is just really useful, especially if you're a PPC marketer who has a lot of different things going on their plate. Yeah, I really like this one. Next one, I know the guy who runs this. So this is specifically an MCP server for Meta ads, so Facebook and Instagram ads. And yeah, exactly the same as Google Ads. You connect Pipeboard to your Claude account and you can ask it to do anything. The cool thing about this one is it can actually write updates to your Facebook ads account. So you might want to say, if you want to push changes live to your account, again, you need to be careful with these because sometimes the security is not 100% there, although this particular one does get a lot of very good reviews. But you can do all of this through Claude. So you don't even need to log into Facebook ads. You can say, hey, look at all my recent tests. Tell me where should I increase my budget for Facebook ads? And if you really want to, you can tell it to make changes. You can say, hey, pause this campaign. Let's put more budget over into this campaign, whatever you need. And you can get the visualization directly inside of Claude as well. So Pipeboard is probably the best Meta Ads MCP I've come across so far. It's growing in popularity. I know a lot of different PPC people using that one. So that's cool. LinkedIn ads and TikTok ads. I would use Zapier for these ones. I think I haven't found a really reputable MCP for LinkedIn or TikTok ads. There probably are some out there. But I think just going through Zapier is probably the safe option, at least to get that set up. And it means you don't have to go and look at a ton of different tools. But again, you can find this, that it just show you very quickly how. So if I wanted to add a new tool, I literally just type in LinkedIn ads. And there it is. And then I can add all those tools. It can actually do things as well. So like it can actually make some changes to your account and give you some data in detail. So that's a cool one. A lot of people like Appify. I'm adding it in here because I do see potential in Appify. What Appify is they have a ton of actors and they can scrape data from any websites. So if you have Appify connected to Claude, in theory, you can go and call all these different scraping tools. So you can say, hey, go to this company and scrape all their Facebook posts, or even go to the Facebook ad library and scrape all these different Facebook ads for this company or this company and compare them together. So there's a lot of potential, but what I've found is that because these are contributed by lots of different users, a lot of them kind of fail or run slowly. You also do have to kind of train Claude or train the AI how to access them. So like on first time of trying it, usually there'll be some failures. So you have to be persistent. But if you find one that you like, so let's say you find this TikTok scraper and you think that's really useful for your PPC process, for coming up with UGC content ideas. If that works, then just work slowly with Claude to understand how this particular scraper works. And then you'll probably need to create like your own custom prompt specifically to go and locate that scraper. Again, you can do all this through the Claude desktop app, so you don't actually have to click anywhere else. You can just say to Claude, hey, use this TikTok scraper via Appify, and I want to do this workflow process. So I can see the power and potential of it. I don't use it a huge amount, but yeah, a lot of people do like to use Appify. Next one, this is a really obvious one. The Google Analytics MCP server. So you can connect Google Analytics again to Claude, which is my favorite tool, and say, how many users did I have? If you're ecom, what were my top selling products recently? And this is just an example they give. I have a marketing budget of $5,000. Help me create a data-driven marketing plan based on all my analytics data. And again, the AI can go out to analytics, grab all the data, pull that back in, and just give you in natural language terms a plan of action. So you don't have to sit in Google Analytics and click through all those. I don't like using Google Analytics personally. I'm not like a huge data person. I get overwhelmed with like all these different numbers and tabs to go from. So I would much rather just sit on Claude and say, this is what I want to find. Help me make sense of it in like natural human language. The next one is, I haven't actually found another MCP for this, but Pipedream have a Google Merchant Center MCP server. So it allows you to automate product listing updates, which I can see would be very useful for anyone working in PPC and the e-commerce space. Yeah, I haven't played around a huge amount with this one yet, but I think this could be really useful. And Pipedream actually built this. I know Pipedream is a really reputable company as well. And last but not least, Ahrefs. So what I like about Ahrefs is they're really focusing on MCP. And this is the idea you can see visible on screen here. Using they've given an example here, using Ahrefs MCP server, plot a timeline of monthly organic traffic. I mean, Ahrefs is more along the realms of SEO, but I think the gap between SEO and PPC is closing. And I think being able to look at organic trends is obviously really helpful for anyone doing PPC as well. I also like the fact that Ahrefs are really focusing in on this. They know that people want to access their data through a tool like Claude. So this is really useful. And again, the whole point of all of these things is just so that you can have one core AI tool, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude, and you're able to access all your tools through that. So you don't have to open a million tabs like I have here. You can just access, in theory, all your data and get it to talk to each other as well. You can say, hey, here's my Google Analytics data. Now cross-reference that with what we're seeing in Ahrefs. There's all sorts of things you can do. But those would be my top 10 MCP servers for PPC marketers.